Greetings everybody, and welcome to another DLC speculation video entitled The Future of Planet Zoo, as if I know anything about that. Let's start with what we do know. We know that support and DLC development for the game will continue at least through 2023. What we don't know is what we will be getting, both in terms of DLC and in terms of the free updates. We don't know when we'll be getting any of it. We don't know how many DLCs we will get, or how many updates for that matter, and we also still have no idea what will happen beyond 2023. Since the past is often a pretty good indicator of the future, let's take a look at the past. The game originally released in November of 2019, and the next month already, we got the first DLC. In 2020, we got the South America pack, the Australia pack, the Aquatic pack. And that left us at 3 DLCs. In 21, we got the Southeast Asia, Africa, North America, and Europe DLCs, giving us a total of 4 packs in 21. 22 gave us the Wetlands pack, Conservation, Twilight, and Grasslands. Again, a total of 4 packs. Now, if we look at the types of packs, the first 4 consisted of 3 continent packs and 1 biome pack. I'm of course counting the Arctic pack here as a continent pack because that is what it is. Fight me. In 21, we got 4 continent packs, leaving us with, really no more obvious continent packs. We still don't have an Antarctic pack, but I also don't really see what would be in it. So, no big surprise that there were no continent packs in 22. Instead, we got 2 biome packs, the Wetlands and the Grasslands, and we got 2 themed packs, Conservation and Twilight. And let's take a quick look at the when. The first pack has come out either in April or in March. The second pack has been in either June or in August. The second pack, or the third pack, for those of you who can count, has come in October or not at all. If it's in October, the second one has been June, and if the second one was in August, there is no third pack, historically. And the fourth and last pack has always been December. So looking at 23, I see 2 possible configurations. Either 4 packs, one in the spring, one in June, October, and December. And these, I believe, would consist of, pretty vague here, 1 to 3 biome packs and 1 to 3 themed packs. The other possible option, 3 packs, spring, August, and December. Now, we have been getting 4 packs a year for the past 2 years, so I do think that is the most likely outcome, but if we get one of the major themed packs that I'll be talking about, implementing some pretty significant changes, that I think would make the 3-pack combo more probable, maybe? I was talking about themed packs and biome packs. Let's take a look at some biome pack speculation first. Now, we have animals from every biome, but not every biome has a dedicated pack. So, which ones don't? We don't have a Woodlands pack. I mean, we kind of, sort of got a Woodlands pack with the Twilight one, but not really. We also don't have a Mountain pack, and this is another thing that a lot of people have been mentioning, and I think it would make a pretty great addition to the game, as would a Desert pack. There are so many special, awesome, cool animals living in the desert. We do have a lot of them, but there are even more that we don't. Other options could be a Tropical pack, Rainforest pack, something like that. Or something that I haven't thought of at all. If you have any other biomes that are missing that I am also missing, please do comment. Now, the one in the middle, the one that I have not yet shown you, isn't technically a biome, but it sort of is. An island pack. Now, islands can come in pretty much any biome, but what many islands have in common is that evolution has taken place in isolation. The words isolation and island being etymologically related, by the way. So what we often see in terms of fauna, in terms of animal life on an island, are some very unique species that you don't find anywhere else. And with the game's increased focus on conservation, I think an island pack would be right down their alley. So what would these packs contain? Well, in my previous DLC speculation video, I already talked about woodlands animals, and I mean, some of them obviously are off the list now because they are in the game. We still don't have the wild boar though, and these would be such a great addition to the game. Honestly, any kind of pig, because we really don't have enough of them. Also, I do think we need more small predators. So any kind of stoat, weasel, mink would be great. Within the same family, slightly bigger, the wolverine. Sounds like it should be a wolf, looks like it should be a bear. It is neither. It is in the weasel family. And again, another awesome potential addition to the game. Now, before I go any further, let me just say a woodlands animal pack obviously could contain any one of thousands of animals. The ones I pick are based on personal preference. A hare, for example. No, not the stuff on your head. The thing that looks like a rabbit bunny. Not a rabbit, but a rabbit. Never mind. Also, the red squirrel, which would bring up the trifecta of red. The red fox, the red deer, the red squirrel. And hasn't it been a while since we got a truly tiny habitat animal? Now, these animals, apart from being woodland animals, have the thing in common that they're all pretty much temperate animals. This guy isn't. This is a civet, and they live in the tropical rainforests of Asia and Africa. Looks like a cat, is not. Truly unique, interesting animal, as is that guy. Now, I said we needed more pigs. Later on, I'm going to say we need more equines. Both of those things are true, but we also need more small monkeys. We really only have the capuchin and the lemurs, which are not really monkeys, but they are small and they climb and they escape and they're annoying. So please give us the golden lion tamarin. And of course, you cannot talk about a woodlands pack without mentioning one of the most wanted animals out there, a sloth. This guy's a three-toed sloth, could be a two-toed sloth. Look at him. Seriously. A sloth would be a must in a woodlands animal pack. And also a hedgehog. These guys would make pretty good either habitat or exhibit animals, depending on the size. You can have teeny tiny little hedgehogs that would work well as an exhibit animal, or you could have a much larger bristled cone face, which is of course the very scientific way of... Also a mouse. We don't even have any mammal exhibit animal, and I think a mouse would work really well in that capacity. Moving on to mountain animals. The first animal on this list is a repeat, because the wolverine would work pretty well in a mountain animal pack as well. And for the cat lovers out there, of course I have something for you. This is the palace cat. The fluffiest, grumpiest old man looking cat out there, trying so hard to look majestic, not really getting there. Speaking of majestic, however, we have the bighorn sheep from North America, and that's a majestic moo. This is a yak, another animal that many people have been mentioning as something they want. Personally, I'd rather have the muskox if we have to choose between the two, because they are so cute. And look at the baby. Seriously, you want that in your game. Don't say you don't, because you're wrong. You do. Now, I said we are missing pigs. I said we are missing small monkeys. What we are also really missing are equines. This guy is known as the kiang, also called the Tibetan wild donkey. They live on the mountain plains of Tibet, and they are gorgeous. Look at those colors. Also, we need a gopher, just because they are cute. These guys are basically larger, fatter prairie dogs who don't live on the prairie. Going into exhibit animals, I thought, why don't we take advantage of the new large exhibit and get some more butterflies? That specific guy is a mountain Parnassian, and I picked him because he has the fat, fluffy body, which I think makes them less horrifying. Not a fan of butterflies, but it could be really any butterfly out there, or many of them. Desert animals. Again, we have a donkey, and this is not the same one. They look really similar, but this is actually an onager, which lives in the deserts stretching all the way from Syria and Iraq through India to Tibet. And also, of course, a kitty cat. This is a sand cat. It's basically a fennec fox, but it's a cat. Not the smallest of the wild cat species, but certainly among them. And they're adorable. Now, an easy inclusion that I personally would not be super excited about, but it would work quite well in the game, is the dromedarian. And I know all y'all Americans be calling them dromedarian camels, but I'm Danish, so I'm not going to say that. This is just a flipping dromedarian. Americans are making fun of us for saying skildpadde when we mean both turtle and tortoise. We say rye when we're talking about prawns and shrimp, and yet you cannot figure out the difference between a camel and a dromedarian. So there, also give us him. Yes. That is a saiga antelope, critically endangered, alien-looking thing with the ears of a teddy bear, the horns of a demon, and the face of a sock. And I love them. Moving on quickly to some exhibit animals. We have a lot of lizards, and lizards are kind of difficult to get excited about as exhibit animals at this point. But look at the face. This is a horned lizard, and you find these in deserts pretty much all over the world. This one specifically is a Texas horned lizard, and I picked them because they have the creepiest ability. They can shoot toxic blood out of their eyes if you piss them off. So just enjoy them from afar because they are cute. But don't boop the snoot. Not forgetting the large exhibits, of course, we should have some kind of desert insect that can fly. And I picked the hummingbird moth for this because, like I said, it has a fat, fluffy body. This is the cutest fuzzy buzzy out there. If you ever think you see a hummingbird in Europe, this is what you actually saw. So cute, so tiny. And moving back into habitat territory, that was a lot of T's, please give us a roadrunner. Whether we get flight or not, these could be included in the game with the current mechanics, and they are such an iconic bird. We have a coyote, but where's the meat bird? Huh? Tropical animals. Well, obviously, we are bringing the sloth back in. We're also bringing back the lion-maned, orange monkey, and the civet. And the wild boar would not work as a tropical animal, but the red river hog most certainly would. Another super iconic pig. We need more pigs. And also howler monkeys, because Frontier really seems to like their primates. And I know, we already have a lot of snakes, but this guy is a green anaconda, and they would be the first habitat snake in the game. Because, I mean, I guess in theory you could fit one of these in a 4x4 box, but you wouldn't have room for literally anything else, because they're huge. Again, don't boop the snoot. We do, however, still need an exhibit animal, so how about a chameleon? This is one that I'm actually surprised we don't have yet. There are multiple species, I'm not even sure which one I picked here, but it's a chameleon. We don't have a chameleon, and we should. We should also have the tick-tick, which is also known as the mouse deer. It is absolutely tiny. That plant by its back legs, that's a dandelion. They don't even look real. It looks like a deer had a baby with a chihuahua. But the cutest animal in this fantasy pack of mine is one that I didn't even know existed until I started randomly Googling tropical animals, iconic tropical animals, special interesting tropical animals, and it is the southern tamandua. I love this one. This is an anteater that climbs. And I don't even care about any other animals, just give me the southern tamandua, because that is the cutest face in the world. Islands! Now, I could have had, I had to stop myself, because I have more animals here than I could fit on my screen. So let's take a tour through some of the more isolated, evolutionarily interesting islands of the world. Starting with Tasmania. Island off the coast of Australia where you find the Tasmanian devil, yet another very highly requested animal, who would go great in an island pack. Relatively close by in New Zealand, we have the kakapo, which is the most adorable green coconut. It's actually illegal to keep these guys in zoos, so I don't think we have any hope of getting them, but we could get a kiwi, which we should. Disclaimer, I have a lot of flightless birds on this list because flightless birds seems to be a thing that happens on islands. When they don't really have to fear predators, they sort of don't bother. And the kiwi, again, such an iconic animal that I want. And continuing in the animals people want direction, the tree kangaroo of Papua New Guinea. Another great bet for a potential island pack, or for a woodlands pack, or for a tropical pack. It could all work. Now the next animal, please make this an exhibit animal if it ever enters the game, because I find it super creepy. This is the Christmas Island red crab, and it lives on, you guessed it, Christmas Island. There are millions of these guys, and every year they take a trek to the beach, and I don't want to be anywhere near them. I find them horrifying, but also super fascinating. I mean, look at that color. Next up, we have a true weirdo. This is the long-beaked echidna, and unlike the kiwi right below it, it doesn't have a beak. The kiwi is a bird, it has a beak. The echidna is a mammal that has a snout and also lays eggs. One of the few mammals, along with the platypus, to lay eggs. This is what happens on islands. Things get weird. Now, yet another oft-requested animal is the fossa from Madagascar. So we're moving on to a different part of the world, another island with so many unique species that it is difficult to choose. The fossa looks like a cat, but genetically has absolutely nothing to do with them. Also on Madagascar, we find the satanic leaf-tailed gecko. Don't know why they're satanic, but the rest of the name makes perfect sense, and they would be a perfect exhibit animal. Still on Madagascar, we have the streaked tenrec, which looks like it could be related to the echidna below, but it isn't. It is more closely related to moles and shrews, despite its spiky exterior. And these guys are also tiny and could be an exhibit animal. So we could have many, many exhibit animals and many flightless birds. This is the flightless cormorant. Look at those stubby wings. They're about a third of the length that they would have to have in order to carry this bird in the air. Underwater, however, these guys can outswim a sea lion. And I love them. And yet another flightless bird. This is the kagu of New Caledonia. And unlike the cormorant, they actually have wings that size-wise should be able to carry them, but they don't use them for flying, they just use them for mating displays, and also they have super fancy feathers on their head. So all of these birds, all of them, could be included in the game with the current mechanics, as could the hummingbird. Yes, they fly, but slap them in an exhibit. Now, let's move on to some themed pack speculation, starting with some recent developments within Planet Zoo. And by recent, I sometimes mean like all the way back to the beginning. I'm going to be looking at additions to animal behavior, to guest and staff interactions, and to exhibits. Starting from the bottom of the list. In Update 1.11, we got the customizable backdrops and the improved camera, neither of which I've actually ever used. However, we have also gotten some super useful stuff, including the large walkthrough exhibits. And these also have more barrier options, including the null barrier, which makes them incredibly useful for a lot of different things. They are fully customizable. They still have those pop-up enrichment things, but because of the null barrier, you can put a redwood in an exhibit if that's what you want to do. We also got, with the butterflies, the option of making multi-species exhibits. Yay! Now this, I think, will be super useful in the future if we get birds. And last but absolutely not least, in my opinion, is the automatic management option for all exhibits, large or small. Now what I'm getting from all of this exhibit enhancement work that Frontier has been doing is that they have an increased focus on making exhibits an integrated and interesting part of the game. Because honestly, up until this point, exhibits, for me at least, have just been this thing that you plop down at the beginning of franchise mode to make some money, and then delete when you get tired of managing them. That is a super bright screen. Let's look at some guest and staff interactions. Number 1. We have the interactive education stations, and these I have categorized as guests interacting with objects. Now, they have been doing that all along with, for instance, the vending machines, but this is an expansion of that aspect. Next up, we have the guided tours, which again are an expansion of guests interacting with staff. Group photos, that's guests interacting with each other. Personally, I don't give a hoot, but it's there. We also have the expanded exhibit talks, which now give us staff interacting with animals. And that's actually kind of a new thing. So far, we've had them running around with boxes. Even the vets, if an animal is escaped, they shoot it and it goes into a box. It is brought into a closed behind the stage building, and we can, go in there and see what's going on. Even when they feed them or clean out their enclosures, they're not directly interacting with the animal. But the exhibit talks give us the highest level of staff-animal interaction that we've ever had. And then the Grasslands pack gave us OMG guests interacting with animals. Now this one, if this is not simply a blip on the game development trajectory, if this is actually a direction that they're going to be going in, this is big. So, what's next? Well, next is speculation about what we could possibly see in the future in the terms of guests and or staff interactions. Now, we could of course see more guest-guest interactions, but honestly, why? Does anyone care about that? We could also see more guest-object interactions. For example, we could have new education stations. Personally, I would like some height measuring stations with animals from different continents. And this next one might seem a bit idiosyncratic and silly, but I really want drinking fountains. First of all, because I have this weird nostalgic relationship with drinking fountains, but also when you're building a zoo in a hot biome, it is ridiculous how many places you have to put down for your guests to get drinks. And if you could just pop in some drinking fountains, you wouldn't be making money from it, but you would be raising the guest happiness without having to hire and manage and fix machines. So yeah, it's a kind of a small, weird thing that I want, but I still want it. We could see more guest staff interactions, things like interactive kids talks. I don't know how that would be implemented. It's just a thing that a lot of zoos do in the actual real analog world that most of us live in. We could see some kind of a backstage, maybe food prep type thing. Again, the game is not really set up for this because guests don't like backstage buildings, but it is, again, a thing that zoos do. We could also see more staff-animal interactions, and this I think would be interesting. We could have something like publicly posted feeding times, but on the other hand, that's already included in the talk, so that wouldn't really be an addition to the game. But we could have something like training as enrichment. And I'm not talking about teaching the animals tricks, but a lot of zoos do train the animals simply in order to be able to do things like keep the elephant's feet filed, or take a blood sample, or do any one of 100 other things that they have to do in order to keep the animals healthy and happy. So they train the animals to be able to take part in these necessary procedures without having to sedate them and without stressing them out. Very recently, in fact, Copenhagen Zoo had a baby elephant almost die from elephant herpes, which is an extremely contagious disease that only has about a 15% survival rate among baby elephants. And they were only able to do this because they could take blood samples from the adults in order to find one that had antibodies and then draw blood from that elephant daily to use to cure the baby. Now, below the little white branch on the screen, I have what I sort of really want, and that is more guest-animal interaction. This could be something like holding or touching exhibit animals during talks. Obviously, not all exhibit animals. This would have to be done in a way that respects the animals, but there are zoos doing this to further education. A lot of snakes don't care. So this is kind of a balancing act between animal welfare and guest education, but I do think it is something that could be implemented and work really well. Again, this is a thing that real zoos do. Also, feeding them. Not, here you go, have a French fry, but from actual feeding stations. If you have goats, you can go over and put a coin into a thing, get a handful of healthy goat pellets, and feed them to the goats. Just don't give people the pellets in a paper bag because the goats will also eat that. I am speaking from personal experience. And the big one, petting habitat animals. Because yes, I'm still going on about the darn petting zoo. I want it. But how? How would that be coded? How would that be implemented? I don't know, okay? Maybe we could have a new special habitat type. Maybe they could put up some signs. Don't feed the animals here. Do pet the animals there. Maybe it's a thing that you attach to the fence where the animals walk up to it, and then right there the people can, I don't know, okay? I just want it. Backtracking a bit and looking at the past once more. Some of the more or less recent additions to animal behavior. With update 1.9, we got bathing. With update 1.10, we got sniffing and the chorus behavior for the wolves and the siamangs. And with update 1.11, we got what I'm calling advanced escape. These are all basically animals being animals. I think I call them enrichment behaviors further on. Autonomous things that don't really impact anything, I said looking at the trash can, which has obviously been impacted. Also, let's look at some additions to how the habitat animals move through their habitats. Pretty early on, we got deep diving. So this is not recent, but it is big. Major change to how many of the animals interact with their environment and move through their habitats. More recently, we got brachiation, which only one species of animal has so far, so it's probably been super difficult to code, but it doesn't have that big of an impact on. And most recently, we got the looped flight animations. These are not habitat animals. This is not behavior. It's just an animation that loops around. But I'm still mentioning it, and there is a reason why I am mentioning all of these things, except brachiation. That one's just sort of there because it exists. So what could we, based on this, expect, possibly, potentially, peut-être, to see as additions to animal behavior in the future? I think it's safe to say we will be getting more enrichment behavior, just animals being animals. Because we have gotten that with every single update for a while. I hope to see increased animal-animal interaction. Especially, I would love to see improved herding behavior. This has been tweaked, but I want more of it. Especially, I want the babies to actually stay with their parents. I mean, with some species, it makes sense that they just sort of go off and do their own thing. But something like the ostrich and the emu, those chicks in nature stay super close to their parents, and I want them to do that in my game too. Another possibility, of course, I'm just going through the same categories as I did before, while simultaneously losing my voice, is more interaction between the animals and staff or guests. And below the branch, my biggest wish, flight as behavior. Free flight. Moving on to this very weird looking empty screen, let's look at possibilities within themed packs. Some things do point towards a petting zoo pack. One being the focus on education in kids. Another thing being expansion of zookeeping and the zoo experience towards realism. Let me explain that. A lot of things have been implemented recently that are very much like what happens in real zoos. For example, the focus on conservation. So many zoos have these massive conservation efforts going on. You may not see them because a lot of it is behind the scenes, and yeah, the conservation pack also gave us some great backstage objects. The education, the focus on kids, that also feeds into this one. And so many zoos, real zoos, have petting zoos as part of the thing, so I think that these things point towards that thing. Also, we're getting more themed packs. And by this, I actually mean two things. One, we're getting more packs that are themed, and two, the themed packs we're getting have a sort of a heavier theming. And, of course, the implementation of the first tiny little hint of guest-animal interaction. So what animals might be in a petting zoo pack? Well, I'm going to refer you back to my other Planet Zoo DLC speculation list, because I would just be repeating myself. While some things point to a petting zoo pack, many things point towards an aviary pack, including my own personal wishful thinking. I know. Obviously, the flight animations point towards animals that can fly. And the inclusion of more color morphs. Now, why am I including the inclusion of more color morphs in an aviary speculation? I will get back to that. And of course, as I have pointed out before, deep diving is just underwater flight. Look at that. That is a bird flying in front of trees. Also too, people want birds. Now, why am I illustrating the text "People want birds" with a picture of two cappies and a door? Because a capybara was a super, super highly requested animal that we got. And that door was a super, super hated object, at least in that configuration, which we got fixed with the shorter habitat gates. Point is, Frontier actually listens to the players.
We want birds! We want birds! We want birds!
Also, the developments within the whole exhibit aspect, with the increased focus on making exhibits an integrated and interesting part of the game. Now, why are they doing that? Why do they want us to want more exhibits? Well, that might be because they're planning on using them for something. And yes, I know, so many people have talked about the coding, and I'm not a coder. I've done a little bit of it, but I'm certainly not an expert. And so many people say that implementing flight in this game would not be possible. However, Jurassic World Evolution 2 has flight. And this game is made by the same company. It uses the same engine. But as I said, I'm not an expert. I might be wrong. It has happened once, I think in 1997. Even, however, if they do not implement flight, the developments in exhibits, paired with the fact that we just pretty much got a nocturnal pack but without nocturnal behavior, could still point towards birds. Because I see two possible versions of an aviary pack. One of them is an exhibit-only version, where we would be able to build something like this, but with birds instead of butterflies. And the other version, of course, is the full version with free flying habitat birds. That was take 4. I said like flea flying so many times. Now, for a list of free flying habitat birds, I again refer you to that one. And no, you can't click it. I'll post a link below. When it comes to the exhibit-only birds, however, hold on to your hat. The most obvious would be something like finches, budgies, canaries. We could easily go a bit bigger though and have lovebirds and parrotlets. Or of course, cockatiels. Who doesn't love a cockatiel? Look at them. These are the sweetest, gentlest, nicest birds ever. If you're afraid of birds and you gotta walk through a bird habitat, you want these guys in there. Because they're so sweet, so gentle, so pretty. These guys are not. These are sun conures, and they are just one of many, many, many species of conures that we could potentially see. We could also have the crimson-bellied conure, the blue-crowned conure, the green-cheek conure, all of them named after a color and a body part. These are all separate species. The green-cheeked conure, however, does come in several different color morphs, including turquoise and the so-called pineapple green-cheek conure. And this is why I mentioned the inclusion of more color morphs as something that could maybe hint towards birds if you wanted to. Because conures are not the only birds with many, many, many different color versions. Teals can also look super different, as can budgies. Within budgie breeding, there are 30 recognized colors. Budgies are the reason why I put color morphs on the list of things that hint towards birds. Don't want parrots? Okay, how about a diamond dove? So small, so cute, so pretty. Or a kookaburra. Kookaburras are actually one of several species of free-flying birds that Copenhagen Zoo has in their new walkthrough habitat. And also the kookaburra is just an amazing little bird. We could have the superb starling. This guy's mostly on the list because of his name, Superb Starling. I love it, and I want them. And I want all the birds. I want these birds and like 500 other birds that aren't even on the screen or the list because I couldn't fit any more of them on here. But this is the Bali Minna. Probably not a species you would ever put in a walk-through habitat, but I have them on here anyway because they are a great example of the conservation work that zoos do. The bally minnow is critically endangered. They were down to, I think, like 6 pairs in the wild or something. This is a bird that probably would be extinct if it were not for the efforts of zoos. And honestly, they are absolutely beautiful. Oh, you want more parrots? Awesome. This is a blue-fronted Amazon, another bird often kept in zoos. And this is a gala, also known as the pink and gray cockatoo. And yes, cockatoos and cockatiels are very different birds. I'm looking at you, Sons of Anarchy. The prime contestant, however, for a parrot in a walk-through aviary is the rainbow lorikeet. I have actually been to 2 zoos where they had walk-through habitats almost identical to the one we have in the game, with these guys in it. And they have feeding times where you get a little cup of nectar and you walk in there and you hold it, and these guys come down and they eat the nectar because they eat nectar and fruit in the wild. So they're super easy to feed. They are the funniest, clowniest little birds you'll ever see, apart from kayaks, which personally I would not want to walk into a whole flock of those because they're kind of crazy. But I love them. I have 2. I love them. And also I'm rambling. So let's move on to the one animal that I love above all others at Copenhagen Zoo, which by the way is my local zoo, that's why I'm constantly babbling on about it. This is the blue-fronted hanging parrot. Not only are they tiny, they are super clumsy, and they look like they were drawn in the Middle Ages by an artist who hadn't actually seen a parrot, but only heard one described. They just look kind of wrong in all the right ways. And of course, hummingbirds. That sums it up from my end, so I guess all that's left to ask is, what do you think? Will we be getting a sloth? Another pig? Another equine? And what about the birds? Will we be getting birds in 2023? And will they be more of an exhibit thing, or will we actually get free flight? What themes really speak to you, apart from the ones I mentioned? Did I forget any biomes? Any essential, iconic animals, maybe? Until next time, if you like the video, please like the video. Bye!